Yes, lads, what is going on? And welcome to the Troy Sports Podcast. I know I haven't posted in a while. Do not worry, I'll have a full solo episode of the podcast going live very, very soon. But for now, I just want to get this episode out and get the ball back rolling again. And we have to talk about, obviously, the name change, where my running is, where I am with the gym, what other sports I'm doing, my current goals. Everything since the last episode of the podcast, which has been a while ago. If you can tell, the camera quality, if you're watching over on YouTube, has drastically increased. So I got a new camera setup, getting an entire new setup, getting the ball rolling again. In fact, my camera is just about to die, so I'm gonna have to do this nice and snappy. But in this episode, we are joined by NN Running Team's Jake Smith. Jake Smith has ran and lived with the best athletes in the world, from Eliud Kipchoge to Joshua Cheptegei, running over in Uganda, and just racing and training at the highest level. Jake and I talk about everything from his early days in running, where, you know, in secondary school he wasn't able to even qualify for nationals, to now being part of the best running team in the world and being a Nike athlete as well. We talk about some of the injuries and problems he ran into over in his period living in Uganda, from eating disorders and what that led to, such as stress fractures and Achilles injuries, and his current, progression to get back running and get back as fit as possible to achieve his goals of getting to the Olympics next year and the World Championships in years to come. So it's a great episode. It was an absolute privilege to have Jake on, such a top class athlete. He was part of the best team in the world, so I'm really looking forward for you all to give this one a listen. Once again, I apologise for not being active with the podcast over the past couple of months. It's coming up to now, but don't worry, there will be a solo episode out very, very soon to catch you guys up on absolutely everything. I just want to get this episode out, get the ball rolling again, and then it's an absolutely great one with Jake Smith, a member of the NN running team. Okay, so I am joined with Jake Smith, athlete, part of the NN running team. Jake, I really appreciate you coming on to the show. We've been in contact over the past couple of months, and then over the past few days, we've decided now to jump on and get an interview done. So I'm really looking forward to it. Like I said, part of the NN running team, which is, you know, a first for my show, having an athlete from that team on. So I'm really looking forward to find out more about NN Run team. But before we do, we'll just jump into kind of you as an athlete. If you want to introduce yourself, and we'll go from the beginning all the way up to the present day, I suppose.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me on. My name is Jake Smith, and like you said, I'm part of the NN running team and a professional runner for the Nike Nike, and I specialize in like longer distance races. I've run a half marathon in just over the hour, so 60 minutes and 31 seconds. I ran an unplanned marathon in 2 hours and 11 minutes. And yeah, I'm just trying to focus on a 10K on the track in 28:01. So I've run some decent times, but there's always ways for improvement, and that's what I'm looking to do in the future.
Definitely, and I know, like, off air, over on Instagram, you told me you support Reading FC, and so
Yes.
running always been like your main sport? Did you start off in football, or was it a bit of both at some point?
Now, so when I like a lot of youngsters ask me like about what ages I started focusing on running more, and I'm not a big fan of youngsters before they're like under 20 and everything running quite quickly, because running is such a long sport, and at the end of the day you want to be running for 20 when you're 25, 30, 35, whatever, and achieving an Olympic potential. So I was never very good at running when I was younger. I played football, hockey, rugby, all the sports I could just get my hands on. And I think that just, without even realizing it, built like an aerobic base in me and speed. But because you play 90 minutes of football on a Saturday without even realizing you're running constantly the whole time. You see how fit these players are. And then when I came to university, then I really started to focus a bit more on running, and everything just changed from there.
Definitely. So, in terms of getting into university, it was never, I suppose, a case of thinking of going over to America, or, you know, on a scholarship. Obviously, you've you know, on the biggest running team in the world now, but back then, when you first started taking running seriously in university, was it ever on your mind? Did it ever cross your mind, or was it ever even a possibility at that time?
Oh, I don't think it was a possibility. I wasn't good enough. So like when I was like, I remember in year 13, like I was 30 seconds off the national schools 3K time just to go to national schools. and I came 50th in my cross country, the cross country national, so the cross country schools race. And it's like, and then ever since now, I've run for GB at the European Cross. I've run all these times, and that's what I'm trying to show like youngsters. Like, it doesn't matter how good you are when you're young. Like, at the end of the day, you just want to be enjoying it and everything, enjoying all the other sports, because when you're older, that's when you can start focusing on it, because running just gets quite lonesome at times, and you don't want to be stuck in that, just in a lonely activity when you're like 15, 16. You want to be enjoying everything else. So America wasn't a possibility, but then I chose Cardiff because I kind of knew the coach and everything. I knew some people there, and like it wasn't too far from home. The training was there really good, so they had an indoor and outdoor track, and so yeah, and I absolutely loved my experience there.
Definitely. So that's, I suppose, like fairly refreshing to hear, because at a young age you see a lot of lads, whether you're in, going into the year before going into university or in university, a lot of lads that you would have raced are heading over to America and are running obviously insane times. And what they're doing at that time for you maybe seemed, and for a lot of people now, seems so far-fetched. But if the way you done it in terms of taking it slow and thinking long term, it does come back, because now you are with the biggest running team in the world. So it's for many, especially young athletes out, it is fairly refreshing to hear that.
Yeah, exactly, and it's like the NN running team. Like it just shows like a lot of people I speak to almost sometimes think you have to go to America or you have to be really good when you're young to pursue the dreams. But at the end of the day, you see some people when they start running at like 30, 35 years old, they've only started running for 2, 3 years, but it's those little improvements you make. At the end of the day, running, it just comes consistency. It says like you can smash training and everything, but if you're not training, like I say to people, in a if you do 2 weeks of training and you like hit training like 110% like the sessions, but then have a week, 2 weeks off because you can't be arsed or you're too tired, it's not as much as doing 4 weeks continuous at like 80%,
Yeah.
because it's just about the consistency. The consistency, I think, is what has got me to the stage I'm at now.
Definitely, and that leads into my next point in terms of, like we said, you're with NN running team now, so there must have been a point where once you got into university, things did start to pick up and kick off a little bit in terms of seeing your talent within the sport and your progression then. So what was that progression like from the year before being 30 seconds off, even just getting to nationals, to then once you're getting into university, things just took a tremendous stride, and it got you to where you are now?
Yeah, it's weird because before university, I never really had a coach, and I was just doing stupid, because I was just almost coaching myself and doing stupid runs, stupid sessions I thought would work. I didn't have any knowledge about it or anything. So, and then I think before university, my PB over the half was 70 minutes, 5K was 15:30, and 10K was like 32 minutes. So then when you think about it, 4 years later, I put 10 minutes on my half time, 4 minutes on my 10K time, and over 2 minutes on my 5K time. And that's purely just following a structure and the consistent training.
So it was more the team element and the coach element, rather than
Yeah.
it just coming out of nowhere. There was actually specific reasons into why you progressed the way you did.
I feel like for me, I don't think it's. I say to people, I don't think I'm like I'm sporty because I played sport all my life, but I don't think I possess like the best runner ability or anything. I think it has come down to hard work.
Yeah.
Just each week, like I couldn't tell you, even when I'm like ill and stuff, it's probably stupid, or like really hungover, I still get the sessions done.
Yeah.
I remember sometimes like I got home at 4 a.m. from a night out, and at 7 a.m. I'm out doing 20 miles, which probably wasn't the smartest idea, but I get this stuff done, and nothing stops me. And I think that's where the motivation comes. And now working with the NN team, it gives me even more motivation because I want to be as good as these guys. And it's quite a big caliber of athlete to have to follow.
Definitely, yeah, definitely. Like not even a big caliber, athletes to follow. It's like the best athletes to
Yeah.
follow. You really don't get much better. So that we'll jump into the NN Run team as well, deeper through the episode, because that alone, the caliber of training that that team endures is a topic itself to talk about. But obviously then, you were saying when you were a little bit younger, in terms of getting to nationals, that wasn't even, a possibility for you at that time compared to, some of the other times lads your age were running. But now, you've ran for England and you've, competed on the highest stage, on the European stage. Tell us about your first ever English fest, because, you can run on the biggest stages, but sometimes the first one is maybe even the most valuable. Or sorry, your Great British Fest.
Uh, I think my first one was like mountain running. So like it was like an under 20 mountain race. I just went out there because I was like, you know what, I wanted to give it a go, and I did my first mountain running trial. I had never done a mountain race and came fourth. Went to European under 20s in Italy. I didn't have a very good race there or anything, but it was experience. It was just like getting to know how to race, getting to know how to prepare and everything, and learning all these traits. And then it kind of spiraled from there. Like I went to under 23 Europeans in Sweden, and then I've been to World Half Marathon Champs. And then I went to like European Cross. So it's been really, really nice. But I think all these races, it's amazing to go to, and I love representing the Britain, the vest and everything. But I think the next aim is the Olympics and World Champs. Like those are the two vests I really, really want.
Definitely, yeah, but of course, the European stage is massive as well. And of course, back in 2021, the European Cross Country Championships were held here in Dublin.
Yeah.
I was down at the race myself. It's literally, the course is 10 minutes from my house. Tell us a little bit about that experience. Obviously, you've ran on the European stage, a bit, but this one was a little bit, I suppose, in a selfish sense, it was a bit more closer to home. So tell us a little bit about that experience.
Mate, the Irish are crazy for it. I couldn't even hear myself like breathe. It was nuts. It was a tough course. It was quite many
Yes,
like
it's a really tough course.
the thing is with us, we were talking like with the team we got like because you have to get through Liverpool, and four out of the six of the British lot we're all road runners. So we had Butcher, Jack Rowe, me, and it was like Will Battershill, Jamie Crow, and someone else. But we were all like road runners, like
Yeah,
four out of the six of us were road runners. We get to Ireland, we're like, oh no, like we ain't looking forward to this because the trials in Liverpool were so dry and everything. So I was so lucky I even got into that race. But I was targeting Europeans. I wanted to get into European Vest, so I put everything into that trials, and I think I probably had a better race at the trials than I did in Dublin, because I remember in Dublin I get there and like I started the race at the back, so I came sixth in the trials, and I just like from minute one I just felt a bit like tired, heavy and stuff, because I was so happy to get into a team, especially cross country, because I'm not a cross country runner. To get into the team, I almost pushed training a bit too hard, and then I got into the race. But the experience that even afterwards, like you go out and we were all in the hotel afterwards, just all having drinks with all the teams and everything, and that's the beauty of the sport. Like you just at the end of the day, no matter what position you are, like we all just come together and just have a chilled out time.
exactly. No, exactly. It's not as it compared to, obviously, you're well familiar in Cardiff as well, and with football and kind of that fan base. But the difference with athletics is that you can just, it's,
Yeah.
yeah, at some points you want a bit of a rivalry, but then, afterwards when you can just come together like that, it's always, it's great.
Oh,
It's great fun. Yeah.
yeah, it was really, really good. I think it was the first time I had a Guinness as well, so that was nice. I like that.
What would you rate it out of 10?
Oh, mate, it's a lot better in Ireland than it is in most places, but I do have one or two every time I go out now. I start off with that. It's my Guinness and like my third drink, so it gets you there. I
Yeah, no,
like it.
it is. No, it's but no, look, going out in Ireland as well, and being able to, experience it nightlife with a lot of lads that you were racing with as well, and that were in
Mm.
your hotel. No, that's obviously a really, really great experience, as much, as getting there and representing your country on the European stage. But no, the course is brutal. We do our,
Mm.
like I said, it's only 10 minutes from my house, and we do a lot of our cross country training on that course, and it's really, really tough. But
It's tough. It's
yeah,
tough.
definitely. The back hill up by the garden wall, the
Oh,
really, really steep hill.
that was muddy as well, so we were getting nowhere up there. It
Yeah,
was so funny.
there's the little pat just before you take the left turn up the massive hill.
Yeah.
That pat is destroyed 24/7.
It was good fun. I absolutely loved it though.
And obviously you mentioned there as well that yourself and a lot of lads on the team, yeah, like Andrew Butchard, are road runners instead of primarily cross country runners. So tell us a little bit about your marathon experience and your marathon journey up until this point, because obviously you're on the roads athletes like Jkae and Mo Farah, and obviously Butchard as well. So high caliber athletes. So tell us a little bit about your road running experience, because at a young age as well, the marathon isn't a race that everyone starts off in. It's maybe an event that a lot of athletes get in a little bit later into their career. So tell us about how you first kicked off your, I suppose, marathon career.
I mean, like I think I messaged you. I didn't actually wasn't supposed to do it. Wasn't
Yeah.
supposed to finish it. I was actually just a pacer. So it's the Cheshire Elite Marathon. So it was like just after COVID. There were a few times I was pacing with Phil Sessman, and I was supposed to drop out 15 miles. But I was just feeling so good, and I was like, "Oh, I made this trip." So people ask me, "Did you have the ambition to finish?" I'm like, I generally on the start, like 2 days before, I did 18 miles run. The day before, I did 50K cycle, traveled all the way up. So I got to 15 miles, and I was pacing this guy who was on the Olympic time at this start, like 2:11:30, and we're going through 15 miles, and he keeps saying to me, because it was a lap course, "Oh, one more, another lap, another lap." So I do another lap, and I'm at like 18, 20 miles, and I look down on my watch. I'm like, okay, I've run now for however long time. We're on Olympic pace. I like asked the officials, am I allowed to finish the race? And they said, yes, you are entered. You are allowed to finish. And I was like, you know what? I've come this far. I didn't take any liquid or anything. I had one gel my mum gave me. I don't even think I've really had that. And I ran the last lap like 450s the whole way in per mile, and I ran 2:11 flat, 30 seconds under the Olympic time, just out of the blue, just no food, no drink or anything, just went there and yeah, just did it, and that was just like, what the hell have I done? So that actually gave me spots for like I got asked to do the Commonwealth Games, Europeans last year, but I turned them down because I don't want to be like another number in another marathon race, like
Hmm.
just a guy at the back. I want to be there competitive. And the thing I lack is my speed. And you see these guys putting these surges. So all of last year, I just focused on my speed. And some of the results may not show, but in terms of my testing, my VO2 went up by 4 or 5. So it went up to 78, and my running economy is very good already. So in terms of that, my speed work is really developed. And I want to go to the next marathon. If I go to the Olympics or anything, all I want to do is just compete with the best. When they put in a surge, just go with it. And actually, I'd rather run a slow time, but say get a medal or top 5, than run a quick time and finish out the top 10, because I want to be competitive.
Definitely. Do you think maybe going into the race as a pacer, you didn't have the nerves or the pre-race anxiety that some people have in terms of getting in their own head about the race, that maybe played into your hands a little bit, to where it was
Oh,
only when you started to feel good, you were like, race mode kind of kicked in a little bit?
oh, 100%. Like at 15 miles, like an hour and 20 minutes into it, I was like, oh my God, this has gone by so quickly, because I wasn't thinking about me. I wasn't thinking about how tired I was. I was thinking about, I need to help these guys out. And so I had no nerves or anything into it. Um, and that was the main thing, because I think when you go into a race, I've said this to people, I've buggered up races because I've got too nervous before. Your heart rate's elevated, you get stressed, and you don't focus on what the job is. So I think doing the pacing, and I've done quite a few pacing jobs. I paced the European marathon record and everything like that. So I do love being a pacer, and it just takes that extra edge off you, because you're just there to enjoy and help the others out.
Definitely, because like you said, nerves can take up a lot of energy before a race, unnecessary energy. So kind of eliminating that, and then feeling good in the race. Maybe you should go into all of your next races from here on in as a pacer and just finish them out.
Maybe I might consider that.
But yeah, obviously then you've done, like you said, a couple other road races as well, and the Olympics, the Olympic marathon and World Championships and stuff is on the a big goal for you in the future, which we get into, I suppose, talking about your ambitions for the future a little bit later on in the episode. But tell us a little bit about when I came across you on Instagram, and realized you're a British athlete, but you're running with the NN running team. It's a huge, I suppose, milestone in your career, and it's a big dream for many athletes and many runners out there. Tell us how that all came about, just from the very beginning of the process of joining the NN running team.
So I was with a different agent at the time, and I have so much respect for him. He was called Malcolm Parmoyo Sports, and it was in like 2021 October or something, and I was on the cards for Nike and everything. So there were some people talking, and there was this guy who's part of Team New Balance, but he's very close to my agent called Kevin Quinn, and he called me. I remember exactly where I was on this random night, and he calls me, and he's had a few drinks, and I thought he was taking the piss, but he's like, Jake, the NN team want to talk to you, and I thought like, look, you've had a few drinks, I don't believe you at all. And he's like, no, seriously, can I give him your number? And I was like, yeah, of course you can give this person my number, but I still don't trust. I told my parents and stuff. I'm like, do you believe him? Do you believe him? He's had a few drinks and everything, and I owe him so much because he's helped me get this. But he's like, yeah, I'm honest. And then I think a day or two later, I actually get a call from the agent, and he's like, oh, hi Jake, this is Yuri. I'm part of the NN running team. I was like, oh my god, like this is nuts. And they got in contact with me, and it took a while to. Because they normally, when they bring in athletes, it's like they either do it in January or June. So it took like, if I got asked in August, October, you can see it's like 3-4 months. But a lot of people in Cardiff knew because I got sent all the kits. I was like, you know what, I'm not going to wear this to training and stuff. And then got the call up, and it was like a bit crap to like leave my agent because he's helped me so much. And I think he knew my potential and everything. Like I've helped him so much. But I said to him, like, I think, and he took it, like, I said to him, like, look, I'm sorry, like, every team you can get me to, it's not going to be as good as the NN. Like, it's the NN running team when you think about the athletes part of it. Like,
Yeah.
right now, of course, there might be better teams in the future, but I just don't see a team for me personally, not based in the UK, any better than this. And he was like, yeah, like, he saw my point and everything. So it was a bit strange. And then in January 2022, I said that I joined NN, and then I went straight to Uganda and trained with Joshua Cheptegei, the Commonwealth champion from last year for the marathon. So yeah, and then it's just been. Then I struggled with food problems, injuries, and everything. So it's been a bit of a whirlwind journey with the team. But I think because they know of my potential and the stuff I was running last year, basically on nothing, that I am worth something.
Definitely. And so, like, what was it that the NN run team that, from your perspective, that caught their eye? You know what I mean? Because, like you said, the caliber of athletes in that team is outstanding, and obviously you're a very high caliber athlete yourself that displayed in the races that you ran and the athletes that you compete against. So was it ever, I suppose, mentioned, what caught their eye about you? Was it the potential that they seen that you had, that they believed they could take out of you?
I think they saw, because I came 18th at the World Half Champs in around 60 minutes and 31 seconds, and I beat quite a few of their athletes.
Yeah.
And I think they saw that, and they saw like on the video, like you see me, like for the first 10, 15K, literally running next to Cheptegei and running next to all the guys part of the NN team. And like they're probably thinking, oh, who's this white guy? Who's this little white kid running at the front? And then he even said to me, like, and then they, like, after that race, they're like, okay, heard of him. Could this just be like a fluke? Could it just be like just a one-off race? And then I think they saw like then 4-5, and then I ran like a big half, for example. I came third to Kaylee, another one of the athletes. I won big half, and then like just finishing the marathon. And then I think they were like, okay, this kid is actually has something, like he's now proven it. And after the marathon, like 6 weeks later, I ran a 5K PB at a Diamond League. So they saw like I was racing at big competitions as well. And then I think they were like, you know what, like they want to, because I was the first British athlete. Now they have Mark Scott. So they wanted to like venture outside of just Africa and Netherlands. And I think that's why they brought me on.
And the first time you went over to Uganda for training, was that the first time you'd ever been in Uganda?
Yeah, first ever time.
So tell us, what was that like, and then your first run or your first time training in Uganda compared to in Wales or in Britain or even just across Europe. Tell us a little bit about the difference.
I think Uganda is probably the most beautiful country I've ever been to, but I had to drop out of my masters purely because where we were, it was like the training camp they stay on, like Cheptegei. He has a house in at the top of the hill, they say in Kapchora, but the camp they live in is probably 1 by 1 meter square tins. They don't have a toilet, they don't have a shower. It's just a hole in the floor. They have this woman called Mama who cooks all the ugali and everything. So it's the most like stupidly basic things in the world, but that's what they do because they're there training and they're such hard workers. And I went there and like I was so with them all the first 3 4 weeks, but like I mentioned, I had massive food problems, lost so much weight. I had to come back after the 5th week because I physically couldn't run, and I put my hand up. I overtrained massively, but I had such big health problems at the end of the trip. I just didn't realize, and so I came back really ill. But the first few weeks, I was doing some sessions which were insane, but I've never trained with someone like Cheptegei in my life. Like we were running some splits and he was buggering off. Like I've never seen someone like him before. It was crazy.
That does think gives yeah, you have to give us maybe a bit of a insight on how they're so good. Do you know what I mean? Because like you said there, the life they live is so simple. It's primarily just revolves around running. And athletes like Cheptegei, are they like local heroes in the areas that they're training
Oh,
in Uganda?
he's basically the king. Like he's everywhere. It's nuts. It's nuts. But yeah, so like for example, we it's at like 2,000 meters elevation. On for hard long runs or hard road runs, we go down to 1,000 meters because
Okay.
that's when they want to get a bit of a speed. And it's on this road, but and sometimes we have to wake up 4 a.m. because you have to travel down, and they don't want to because it does get quite hot. They don't want to run in too hot. So say most days we run at 6:30 till say 7:38. They're in bed straight away afterwards, like napping. So they've been up for what 2 hours, and they're in bed after, or just chilling. They then get up at like have food straight after, whatever, go to sleep, and then they're just chilling. They do not move. Like they go get a massage, whatever. Maybe they go into town to get a drink or something. But most of them just sleep, chill out. Like in terms of steps, if you take out the running, they're probably doing about 100, 100
Really?
other steps. Like but that's like what they do. Cheptegei is probably different because like because of his sponsorship and everything, he does have to go to different events
Yeah.
just because like publicity and everything. But they generally but that's when you're an elite runner. When you think about it, the recovery is as important, and then they'll run again in the evening. But until then, they're just chilling, having fun, having laughs. Um, but that's all they do, and it's literally. Whereas me, like I got told off so many times because I would go on a walk straight after training because I was like, look, I'm in a new country, I want to
Yeah,
see
yeah, yeah.
stuff,
You were more like a
but
tourist at the same time.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. But I can't. So I went to the came over. I went to the waterfalls. I went on like all these different adventures, but I think that buggered me up as well. So yeah, but it was not. It was nuts.
It must just have been, crazy. You don't realize how simple, but how like much running is a
Yeah,
massive part of their life. Do you know what I mean? Because yes,
yeah,
they work hard and running is the main thing they do, but outside of that, how simple everything else is.
yeah. 100%. No, I completely agree with that.
And then tell us a little bit about the altitude. Obviously, have you done training camps at higher altitude before prior going to Uganda?
I think the first training camp I went on was I've been to Spain and Portugal. I've been skiing and done a couple of runs at altitude. That's it. So it was the first time running out there, and it was nuts. Like I was thought 2,000 meters was enough, but they sometimes run in the forest, which is 2,500 meters up, and I was like,
Jesus.
what's the like? But they run so slowly on their easy runs. But I was doing, say, I did 100 miles, I was climbing 10,000 foot
Yeah.
every week because there's no road. Like the tracks we were running around was not a track. It was on a dirt bloody school pitch with cows in the middle, school children watching, just trails. That's how they fit. That's how
Yeah.
they train. And Cheptegei, probably the only time he only runs on a track is when he's competing. Apart from that, he is just on a dirt track. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, and probably the only time you wear spikes is when he's competing as well. Or would they wear spikes on the
He wore,
trail?
no, he does wear spikes on the trails actually, but they get bunged up bad. So
Yeah.
I reckon he has an absolute ton of stuff. So it's quite cool.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And obviously, you're comparing athletics to football.
Mm.
Football, there's much bigger money in football, in athletics compared to athletics. But you take athletes like Eliud Kipchoge, this, the face of Nike at some points, and definitely in terms of the caliber of races that he's won and the career he's had, in terms of wealth and income. he isn't short in that aspect, but the way they live their life, you wouldn't maybe
No,
think you wouldn't think they've
no.
done and been to the places that they have been.
I know it's nuts, but that's why I kind of like. It's a bit like, for example, Adam Sandler, like the
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
movie. So like he just lives his life just like a normal person. He doesn't care about all the money or anything.
yeah.
And I feel like whereas footballers they just bow out and everything. I love football and everything, but it pisses me off when they just come out with all this stuff. I'm like, look, are you actually enjoying the stuff outside it, or are you just showing off? Whereas you can tell these runners absolutely love it, but they don't need to show anything off because they're doing what they love.
Definitely. And then in terms of your deal with Nike, did that come hand in hand with the NN running team?
Yeah, so I didn't really like. I thought at first Nike and NN had to come in hand, but some of the athletes, especially the Dutch athletes, aren't actually sponsored by Nike, so they're allowed to wear other shoes in like training and everything.
Okay.
But when they race, it has to be Nike. So,
Okay.
but I was quite lucky, so I have a deal with Nike and NN.
Okay, perfect. So there was no other like clash or crossover with any other brands. It was fairly straightforward in that sense in the gear you were wearing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Perfect, perfect. And obviously, you've touched on there a few times in terms of when you went over to Uganda, you started running into some eating problems, and after a couple of weeks, up to 5 weeks, it became nearly impossible for you to
Mm.
run. Would you be able to tell us a little bit more about that? Was it the shift in lifestyle compared to back at home to the way they live over in Uganda, or was it merely you were just practically under fueling?
Under fueling first, and it's just little things like they could cook. Like I remember on a Sunday night, they would just hold their like three dead chicken and just walk into the kitchen like that's your food and stuff like. But it's they say for example they cook their meat for 5-10 minutes and we have to cook it for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
It's just little things like that. My girlfriend came over. It's the first time she admitted she was sick the next day, and I was sick a few times. It was so stupid. Like I had a tendency to weigh myself every day, and I fell into that trap and everything. And I was six. I was 22 years old, and I remember one time after a long run, I was 51 kilos at 22 years old, and I was
Okay.
like, "What the hell am I doing?
Yeah.
Like that is disgusting." Like people could see it. Like on people weren't there with me, but even the coach noticed. And after 4 weeks, he's like, "Jake, you're not looking too good and everything." And that's when I lost every single power. I came back to some blood tests. I had a testosterone score of 4, and basically for the last year and a half, well, they just changed the rules, but I could have actually competed in the women's category in terms of testosterone.
No way.
So yeah, but now they've changed. It was if you were under 5, you could because the transgender athletes,
Yeah.
whatever, like, and there's suspicion about a few of the 800-meter girls and everything. But if it was under 5, they said technically they're allowed to compete, and mine was 4. So for a good 2 years, I've run 28 flat. I've run all these half marathons, these 10K PBs, and everything on basically nothing in me. And I was run down. I had to have like I got to a level of anemia. I got a DEXA scan. I got osteoporosis in my back. My DEXA scores and they basically said to me, look, if you carry on this, you're going to be in a wheelchair when you're 30 years old. So that was the start of like a really big downhill winds. And I had to speak to someone because I have this terminology called red S. So it's like basically an eating disorder under fueling, but it's the symptoms that come with it.
Yeah.
I kept getting stress fractures. And that's why I created this podcast called Running with Red S to promote it further because I don't want youngsters suffering what I did. And it's not only the injuries and stuff, but it affects you mentally. Like I've had to apologize to my parents, my girlfriend, everything because I was horrible to them without even trying to be.
Mm.
Because I was almost like the term hangry they
Yeah.
say, but because I was restricting myself so much, and I remember sometimes I actually wrote down how many calories I was having, like when you can check the packets right on like
Yeah.
a fitness app, and I was having sometimes 2,000 calories, burning 5,000 a day. So when you think about it, I was just going downhill, and ever since after this because I got this foot stress fracture, and that was all since Uganda. Like I've just got illness. I've never had a long training bit. Like the worst bit was every time I raced. Okay, if I was a bit lighter, I might have a good race, but I could never. I was always injured or ill. Whereas when I've been heavier in the past, before I even had these eating problems, I've always been heavy, but I've been able to smash out race, smash out another race, recover, and that's what I'm trying to do now. And that's why I had to have 5 weeks complete off, not one single bit of exercise, just going for walks. Now I'm back into like full training now and getting up the running. But I have had to change my whole physique and everything, and it's the happiest I've been. Haven't weighed myself since January. I just look a lot stronger and healthier, and I can already see in my running. I'm already running short distances, but feeling so strong. So it's just been trying to get myself healthy all for next year.
Definitely, because there is stigma around, especially distance runners and marathon runners. You know what I mean? And in terms of the how they look, I suppose, and
Yeah.
you're meant to be really really lean, really really long and skinny, and of course the athletes like Joshua Cheptegei and the athletes training and living and who are from Uganda, they have grown up in that lifestyle, and as it comes naturally, which you experience firsthand. It's very very difficult to make that shift from
Mm.
living in European countries and England and Ireland and Wales, and so it's the, I suppose, the comparison for and how a long distance athlete is supposed to look can, and maybe in your case, led to further problems.
Mm.
So how, maybe for people listening in who might fall under that stigma and into that trap, what can you say to them?
Well, I definitely fell into that trap, but I now look at myself and every person's body type is different, and it's your perfect body type. You have to allow yourself the food, you have to allow yourself the recovery and everything. And because I played rugby my whole life, I have quite broad shoulders and everything, and I run better when I'm happy and everything. And I want to show the world it doesn't matter what body type you are. Like you now look at the athletes now. You look at Kipton who won the London race. You look at there's another guy who came second in Prague, Lisa, I think he is. He's built like he's massive,
Yeah,
upper body, massive legs. He's running 203. You look at Bikali, he's running 201. You've seen him. He's a big, like a much bigger lad than the natural skinny lad.
yeah,
But now, when you look at all the guys who have bigger shoulders, bigger legs, they are able to keep their, even Kipchoge, he might be small, but he's not as skinny as a lot of these other guys. They are able to keep their training, their competition. They are able to go for 20 years. Whereas all these guys who are really, really skinny, they can't. They can't sustain it. And that's what I was falling into. So therefore, I'm now allowing my body to change into what it should be. And I want to prove to the world, like, I don't care. Like, if I go into the start line and an African looks at me and says, oh, he looks a bit too heavy, I'm going to be like, okay, I don't care. I'm going to beat you. Like, or I want to
yeah.
show it on the day. I want to show it in the race. And it doesn't matter what body type you are. And that's what I'm a big fan of now. It's like, I don't care what you look like. I just want to see that you're having fun, enjoying the sport, and everyone can prove it. And if you're able, at the end of the day, if you're able to run for 15 years and just keep competing instead of just running for 3, 4 years, then you've succeeded there.
Definitely. And in terms of testing for athletes to avoid falling into some of the conditions that you fell into, like red S, and then that leading to stress fractures and stuff, is there any way of going about that to maybe catch it before it gets worse, or just to make sure you're overall healthy as a runner?
Yeah, of course. So the first thing is I say is I can't, because I'm not professional, like
Of course, yeah.
dietitian, nutritionist. The first thing I would say is I wouldn't recommend weighing yourself. Maybe if you want to do it and it don't think you affect your head. Like for example, if I weighed myself on Wednesday morning, I would do 20 miles on the Tuesday. I wouldn't eat dinner because I want to be so light on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the hell am I doing? And I also noticed when I was losing a lot of weight, if you see that you can't get your maximum heart rate up, it's because your body is so underfueled and undernourished because you just don't have the energy. Whereas, so for example, when I was struggling, I couldn't get above 170. Now I can hit 200, like
Yeah.
over on a cross trainer and stuff like that. So it just shows. Another thing I would say is if you're constantly just thinking about food, thinking about your next meal and everything, maybe saying no to a lot of social events or weighing yourself constantly. Like I was weighing myself twice a day. I threw away the scales, so I was having nothing of it, and it's the happiest I've been. And if you think you are struggling or unfueled or like even struggling in races, the first thing I would say is talk to someone. Even if it's your parents or friends, just let someone know. Because people might see it from the outside, but the most important thing is that you acknowledge it and you actually catch it before it gets worse. And if you then say, okay, I am struggling, I need to speak to someone, that's the perfect reason, and that will kickstart the journey.
Definitely. So is it a case of eating like a person and training like an athlete instead of trying to eat, I suppose, like like the top athletes who are living in Uganda, if that's not the way you've grown up and the lifestyle that you're used to, it's a case of eating like a person and then going out and train like an athlete.
Like at the end of the day, like the training, recovery and the nutrition is so important. Like for example, you just want to make sure you get in a good macro, like calcium into you, good carbs. If you have a like, don't skip meals or anything. Have snacks between meals. So I've now been put on a diet nutrition because I never used to eat before 12 or anything. I'll do 3 hours of training in the morning, still wouldn't eat until it hit 12. I had these little rules, and now like I have to eat before training. I have to have 2 protein shakes a day because to get my bones up and everything. And it's the most I absolutely adore it. So I look forward to it. And like I even like people say to me, "Oh, do you eat really healthy?" I'm like, "No, like no, I'll have a bagel." Like I've sent 3 sponsorship emails to Nutella, for example, asking for the sponsorship. Like I at the end of the day, like I want to enjoy my food.
Yeah,
Like
of
if
course.
I'm making sure I have ice cream Sunday, like I have 2 tubs of ice cream on a Sunday. Like it's not the healthiest, but at the end of the day, I'm like, you know what? I want to enjoy my life. I want to enjoy these little things. And if I'm still doing the recovery, but making sure, say 95% of my food is good,
Yeah.
like in terms of getting the fat is still so important. The fat, the protein, the carbs. You can still have all these things. I have Nutella every day, and it doesn't bother me. If I and I'm still running all these times, I've always lived off Nutella and peanut butter and
Yeah, of
everything,
course.
and so that it just like, of course, I'm not qualified, but it annoys me when like, and my nutritionist, she's absolutely amazing. I told her I love this stuff, and she's like, Jake, please have it, have it, because you need this sugar, you need this fat in you, and everything. And it annoys me when some like say PTs and stuff say, "Oh, you have to cut out the fat and stuff." I'm like, "Oh, it's all bollocks." Like you need to have all this stuff, but if you're not, if you restrict yourself and you're not enjoying it, you're just not going to improve because mentally you're going to get into a worse state. Whereas if you enjoy and eat the food, like of course don't like binge off like Domino's pizza every single
Yeah.
meal or something, but like just if you want them, have it. But if just make sure you're getting in like in the day, like getting some fruit in you, veg in you, then you can have anything.
Definitely, definitely. No, because especially now on social media, there's so much
Oh yeah,
misinformation. It's
yeah.
crazy. And of course, you're competing at the highest level with the competing against athletes at the highest level, and that coming from you shows that, like you said, like a lot of what these PTs are saying on social media is absolute bullshit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, oh, it is.
And everything in moderation. These PTs and these people that are saying you shouldn't be eating this, shouldn't be eating that, won't then go out and do a 20 mile run like you would. You
No,
know what I mean?
exactly,
So
exactly.
it's at the same time, like you said earlier about how when you were younger you weren't, the fastest athlete. That's refreshing to hear. And then at the same time, you
Oh
say
no.
now, being one of the best athletes, competing with the best athletes in the world, that the way your diet is and how that enjoying your food helps you
Oh yeah.
compete at a higher level and be healthier. That's once again even more refreshing, I suppose.
Yeah, that's the most like now I'm finding out like when I was struggling as well, like when people want to go out for food, I will always say yes
Yeah,
now
of
because
course.
I know, for example, I know what food works for me. I know what food doesn't work for me. Of course, like I've ventured out, but I would never say no to anything. And of course, like if I have a big race, I might, for example, if I have a big session, a big race in the morning, I might have like stick to pasta, or pizza, rice, like something quite healthy and filling for it. But then if it's like, for example, if I don't have like a massive session in the morning, just like fish and chip, like anything, like so it's just deciding what basically purely for in terms of energy for the next day and how it feel in your like stomach
Yeah,
because like digestion and everything. But like at the end of the day, if you're getting in the like I said, the good carbs, good amount of meat, every protein and everything, red meat. I stopped eating red meat, but red meat and iron is so important. And you can make such healthy meals and nice meals, but when I want ice cream, I will have ice
of
cream. When I
course. Yeah.
want Nutella, I will have Nutella. I scoop out that Nutella. Like I'm loving all of it.
Get back to
So,
me if they get in touch with you about that sponsorship.
mate,
I'd love to
I've
hear.
asked them so many times. It's so annoying, but
But
we'll get there one day. We'll get there one day.
definitely, definitely. But so in terms of where you're at in your training now, obviously you said you had red S and it led to so many injuries, stress fractures, and I seen your Instagram as well. You had Achilles problems. Where are you now with your training?
So it's quite refreshing. So, like for example, last week I did 15 hours of training, but it was like 3.5 hours in the gym, 9 hours of cross training, 2 hours of running, and a bit of cycling. But so I'm now on the stage where I have to moderately, really, really slowly build up the running because I had a sacrum stress fracture the first few weeks. If you sit down, it hurts because it's like right on the bum, really. So whatever you do, it hurts.
Yeah.
And so now I'm getting back into running. So each week is progressing very slowly. It's nice because the weather's so nice outside and I'm not stuck in the gym. And so I'm able to, like, this week, for example, run 5 days. The longest run I'm doing is 30 minutes, but it's just encouraging to see, like, I might go to 25 miles for the week, and then the week after 30 miles, and it just slightly increases. Still keeping up the cross training because I big believe in cross training, like keeping you fit, letting the legs like really, really, because there's not as impact and everything. And I'm really focusing on the S&C at the minute because I really need to strengthen. I have a lot of weaknesses, so flexibility, my balance is getting better, but I need to make sure that if I get into a race, because I was very quad dominant and my hamstrings were quite weak, but now I've really focused on my hamstrings for last year, sorry. And if I go into a race and my quads get tired, I can utilize my hamstrings. So it's like focusing on the little things now, getting the running back up, and then we'll think about races from August. I think just getting into like a proper training mode, hitting about 2-3 weeks of what I ideally call the top bit of training, and then we'll talk about races.
Definitely. And will cross training be something that you will implement into your training once you're fully back, fit and ready to race?
Cross training or cross country?
No, cross training, like, cycling and on the bike and things like that.
I love the elliptical. The assault bike. I've done like 90 minutes on that thing. The one they use for CrossFit.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I've done like 90 minutes straight on that and stuff. But I think, yes, I will for doubles. So the most important thing is getting the most important runs done. And then, like, for example, the easy stuff, just to slightly build up, I will implement that. And then when I'm back to full fitness, I'll probably do a couple of days of cross training, just give my legs a bit of a break.
Yeah.
So, for example, if I woke up one morning, or woke up after a run, I was like, oh, I'm a little bit tired, but I still want to get some benefit, I might just do a bit of cross training just to take some impact off my legs.
Yeah, definitely. And in terms of your S&C, what does that training look like? In terms of, like you said there, trying to strengthen your hamstrings. What would you be implementing into your training to do that?
So I'm a big believer in circuit training, and I can't do anything heavy at the minute, like in terms of like squats, deadlifts, because my back there's a lot of bone. It's very, very good. And like probably from this week or next week, I'll probably implement those exercises. But there's so many things you can do for like circuits, even if it's body weight and you don't have access to a gym. So for example, I'm working on my core, and when I ran on Saturday, the guy I ran with said I don't even move my like body now because my core is really strong. So that's another thing, because that reduces like it won't make me tired, because if I'm moving my body all over about, it shows you don't have a strong core. So there's such simple exercises like plank, V-sits, 6 inches flutter kicks, leg raises you can do, and I typically do, so it can only be 30 to 45 minutes, whatever. It doesn't need to be that long, but I'll do, like, say in a set, a core exercise, a leg exercise like lunges, squats. It could be box jumps, it could be hops, it could be, and then there's various machines in there. It could be single leg hamstring lifts, and then the next one is an arm exercise, so it can be like bicep curls, incline push-ups, tricep dips, anything in the gym which you think works your arms and lower back. And then I do like a walking drill, and then I repeat that 3 times, then move on to another set. So it's such basic things what people can do, and most exercise you can do at home.
Yeah.
And which is very good, because if you can able to lift your body, like as runners, we don't need to be lifting bloody 150 kilos or anything. Like, except if you're a 400 meter or 100 meter athlete, you might need to do some more power. But being an endurance-based athlete, you need to do more reps, lower weights, but with the amount of training, like, you don't need to do much. It's more about just reducing the injury risk that I'm really focused on.
Yeah, of course. Instead of throwing up big numbers, it's all about trying to stay healthy and
Exactly.
becoming strong, so you're not getting injured. No, of course, because as well at the same time, distance athletes fall under the stigma that like gym work will make you too big and too bulky, and there's this idea that floats around that if you step into the gym one time, automatically out of nowhere you'll get big and bulky. But then there's people that are training their whole life to get like that, and I think social media has a role to play in that
Yeah,
sense as well. But and if it's something you enjoy at the same time, sometimes the running can get a bit repetitive and a bit
yeah,
monotonous. And if going to the gym and doing some strength training is something that you enjoy at the same time, definitely it could be something to implement into your training once or
yeah.
twice a week.
No, 100% agree with you. And that's what I've been really focused on. Like I do it, say now, like 5 days a week, but each time is only 30 minutes. So straight after cross training. So like one day I'll focus on, say, sometimes I just focus on arms 30 minutes, the next day legs. So it's like it works different body types instead of just doing a full an hour and a half one day, which can make it quite tiring.
Yeah.
You can really hit like a specific spot and feel quite engaged and everything for 30 minutes.
Definitely, definitely. It's yeah, just it doesn't have to be anything too intense or too long.
No,
Just working it a
yeah.
little bit. And then getting back to NN running team, and again I was going through your Instagram a little bit earlier just before jumping on the show, and oh yeah, I seen obviously you were mentioning you have you spent time with Joshua Cheptegei, but you've also spent some time with Eliud Kipchoge, the go of running and as well of marathon running. Tell us a little about your experiences with Eliud Kipchoge, and it was only the one time or
Yeah, I've like video called him and only saw him at the London Marathon Expo, but I haven't trained with him. But I think that's one person I want to beat so bad in a race. Like I know he's my teammate, but I want to beat him so bad. But I'll probably lose my contract if I ended up beating him. But that's that. Hopefully I go to E.1 in Kenya in the next couple of years and do like a bit of a training camp with him because it'd be amazing to train with him.
definitely, definitely no, like the videos you see of him and things like that, he looks like a
Yeah,
really, really nice person.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but no, it depends. You need to weigh out your options. Is beating Eliud Kipchoge worth losing your contract?
Oh no, I'm not sure. I still would love to beat him, but we'll see.
Definitely. No, we'll have to keep an eye on you over the next couple of years. As long as Ali Kipchoge's around anyway, and the races you're in with him, see if you can if you can beat him, and sure we'll have you back on the podcast then if you do.
Oh, I love that. I would love that. It's been good.
And then obviously earlier in the episode you were talking about the World Championships and the Olympic Games. They're obviously still two major goals for you in the future.
Oh, 100%. Like it depends how healthy I get. I would love to go to like next year's Olympics, but this year's really about rebuilding. So if I can get to December healthy, no injury or anything, then I could potentially like go to a trials and see what I'm capable of. But this year, like I said, is it rebuilding. Emil, so a friend of mine, he won London Marathon first sprint ran 2:08:06, and we've had some clashes in the past in terms of like I've beaten him half marathon, and he's beaten me at 10K. So we're like one at like I've trained with him for a month in Leeds, and we train really well together. So I think because he's run the Olympic time, it's something like I want to do. Like as soon as he crossed that line and ran the Olympic time, I messaged my coach like I'm beating him. Like I'm not losing to him again. But so it gives us motivation. And he actually messaged me the other day, which was really nice. Like just out of the blue, saying just of my video on Instagram, saying you're looking really strong, and the splits you're already doing are incredible to see. So I keep saying to people, I'm already in his head, just coming back. So so we have like it's nice because we get on so well, and we have like a bit of competition as well. So I think I'm looking at like trying to get fit so I can like maybe go on a training camp with him in the future, and we can really focus on because we'll both be focused on the marathon most probably over the next couple of years, and just focus on training together. And just it'll be quite cool to see like two boys from Britain trying to race together, train together.
Definitely, definitely. So there's the World Champs in Budapest this year. Obviously you'll be sitting this one out, but hopefully if you can get a training camp under your belt and be healthy until I suppose this time next year, well a
Yeah.
little bit earlier in the year obviously because you need
Yes.
trials as well. But just get as fit and healthy as you can, and hopefully we'll be seeing you in Paris in 2024.
Exactly. Oh, I would love that. It's just like it's a big if like if going to there is will happen because I just need to get this year out of the way in terms of being healthy, getting back to running fully, and then we can decide from there.
Definitely. But look, Jake. Obviously, we'll be keeping an eye on you over this year in your training of I suppose what comes up on your Instagram account. But especially if you get the qualification time to get to the Olympics next year as part of the Great British team for the marathon, we'll definitely be supporting you there. And then afterwards, if I suppose that dream becomes a reality, we'll definitely be having you back on the show to talk us through that
Love that.
experience.
Thank
So
you.
no, do appreciate coming on. Obviously, I said at the beginning of the show we were in contact for a bit over on Instagram, but over the past couple of days we got it sorted, and I did really enjoy it. I hope you did too.
No, I've loved it. I absolutely loved it. So thank you for having me on.
No problem at all. And yeah, no, like I said, fingers crossed. This time next year we'll be talking about you heading over to Paris for the games, and afterwards we'll have you back on. But no, for everyone watching and listening at home as well, I hope you all enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, see you soon. Thank you.